formless, eternal light of God. Formless, able to walk into different forms. And you have walked in many forms, but the formlessness of your spirit has no restrictions of form. This is where freedom is found. It's not that you have to drop the form in order to find your spirit, but you have to disown the form to find your spirit. And your spirit is the spirit of all creation. Disowning is another way of expressing surrender. To surrender your identity, your everything that you've made up in separation. To surrender that is truly to disown it, is to no longer want to claim ownership of an identity. And by claiming ownership of an identity, there's also the expectation that you will protect it, you will defend it, and there's nothing to defend. You're perfect, your spirit is eternal, you're not form, and there's nothing to protect, nothing to defend. Every single thought of defense, reaction of defense, has been indoctrinated partly by agreeing with everyone and following along the same beliefs of separation, defense, protection. But as you truly want peace, you'll find peace. Find peace instead of the knowing of your identity, because it is peace that comes as you accept that you are the light of God. Peace doesn't come from things going well in the day, where you can judge at the end of the day, did that go my way? Did this go my way? Did I like the results of that? Was that my idea? All of that ends up falling away because that's not peace. It's not joy. It's a satisfaction. And it's a defense that says, oh, now I'm safe. My day went well. So I'm safer for it. But safety doesn't come from how the day turns out, because everything is perfect for learning. But if you want the result at the end of the day, and you believe that that will give you your safety as you sleep, it doesn't. Safety of sleep comes from the realization that you can't be hurt, that you have nothing to have to defend, that you can't defend anything because there's really nothing to defend. Everything that is perfect is beyond defense. and the rest is the false identity that has always believed it needed defending. But now it's the calling to back to peace, back to love, back to your eternal self that is beyond form, beyond separation. Sister, brother, pay keen attention. Go very, very slowly to not mistake your path. Sister, brother, keep your feet on the ground. Be careful with your pride. Be careful with your vanity. Sister, brother, go very, very slowly. Be careful with the traps of life in your path. Sister, brother, journey with attention, sincerity in the heart, to return to all love. Pay keen attention. When you hear those words, pay keen attention, go very, very slowly to not mistake your path. Do you relate to it as a love letter? That it is like receiving a love letter that comes from, and you don't know who it comes from, but the words are so loving. Pay keen attention, go very, very slowly. To the ego, this does not count as a loving letter. It sounds more like a direction. It sounds more like someone calling you to pay attention. Do you think of that as love? That it is an offering of love and it's a letter of love, because that's actually what it is. For the divine to say, pay keen attention, go very, very slowly, it's a treasure. It's a treasure, it's a gift, it's a blessing, and it is a love letter. Oh, the divine is saying to you, said to me, go very, very slowly, to not mistake your path. Pay keen attention and keep your feet on the ground. What That's all out of love. That's all saying, here are these droplets of flowers through these words to help you walk the path of love, to learn to walk the path of love. Thank you. Or does the ego raise its ire and say, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Don't tell me to walk slowly. Don't tell me to pay keen attention. I know what I'm doing. It's my life. That's how distorted the ego is that the ego mistakes everything for battle, mistakes everything for being right, mistakes everything for wanting to win. Pay keen attention. Allow the love of God to bathe you as you pay keen attention and go very, very slowly. Do not mistake your way. Every beloved, it doesn't matter who the beloved is, every beloved that says yes to love, to learning the truth of love, has to walk the same way. There are no exceptions. There are no ones that are at the head of the class and can skip over certain areas because they're advanced. Once you think you're advanced, you're not advanced. Once you assess you're good or bad, you're believing in duality. Go very, very slowly and learn that in that slowness is learning, patience, which is just trust, allows to go very, very slowly. I've always been felt connected to a a group of Buddhist monks that their main practice, besides being in silence, their main practice is that they walk completely, putting all of their attention from the back of the heel to laying down their foot down to their toes and being with every single movement of it, and then the other foot doing the same thing. And they do this all day long. Go very, very slowly. And in that practice, they discover their minds, they discover their insanity, and they discover love. Go very, very slowly. And those beloveds that are in that sect, this is their service. They are walking in this conscious, complete way for all of humanity, to open the mind of every beloved into higher consciousness. They are releasing their insanity of the ego for everyone. But at the same time, for everyone means join in that love, join in that sanity, join in that walking slowly in honor of them as they honor you. Honor their slowness that is a gift to everybody. Bismillah. Excuse me, Bismillah. It's a habit of yours to walk slowly. This is the other side of the coin. You hold a grudge for years. With such heaviness, how can you be modest? With such attachments, do you expect to arrive anywhere? Be wide as the air to learn a secret. Right now, you're equal portions clay and water, thick mud. Abraham learned how the sun and the moon and the stars all set. He said, "No longer will I try to assign partners for God. You are so weak. Give up to grace. The ocean takes care of each wave till it gets to shore. You need more help than you know. You're trying to live your life in open scaffolding. Say Bismillah in the name of God, as the priest does with a knife, your old self to find your real name. Bismillah, your real name, in the name of God. You hold a grudge for years. Imagine that this seeker of God would write these words that were also at some point for himself. You hold a grudge for years. Holding a grudge is holding the past. The word grudge speaks to it more accurately than it's just the past. How many things, situations do you hold and remember that are filled with pain, are filled with all kinds of conclusions? Because that's actually what the past is holding, conclusions. The story has to be held in such a way that it makes sense to you. But the insanity actually doesn't make sense. And forgiveness and the willingness to see the beloved in the innocence of God, it doesn't need the story. It's not about the identity, it's about the belief in what the story produces. When you say the word grudge, it has meaning. It's supposed to have meaning. It's meant to have meaning in the world. But the meaning that you have given to it, whether it's grudge, whether it's grievances, whether it's fear, whether it's hesitation, doesn't really matter how it shows itself. It says the past is what everything comes through. I wrote down a couple of words and a question. Where does humility come from? How does how do you embrace humility and how do you know it? Have you explored humility? It's humility is one of the attributes of love, and it is probably the most feared and the most avoided. To really enter into humility, to find that place within you that is then free. Where does humility come from? Humility is love. It's the recognition that you are not what you made. When you think you are what you made, whether you hate it or whether you admire it, doesn't really make too much difference. And sometimes it's both. But the admiration of what you made and the hatred of it makes it real to whoever is holding that. If it is made up, which I promise you it is, but when you believe in the made up identity, all that it shaped and everything that it said, hold on to this, hold on to this, hold on to this. All of it is being called to be surrendered for the freedom of humility. Humility has no dog in the fight. Humility has no purpose to be right. It trusts love because it is love. But it has no personal attachment. There's no identity with humility. There's no trying to get, well, some people do. If I was sitting here and you and you all came in and I was sitting here like this, what would you perceive? Holiness, humility. This means nothing. What I would be expressing within, what would be my intention? I could sit like this, and my intention could be, oh gosh, they're just going to think I am so holy, and they're going to be so impressed, and they're going to be like awe of me, and then I'm going to feel so much better about myself. Same form. Or it can be that this form expresses humility, love, grace, peace, harmony, but it's not dependent on the form of it. The form is what you make it be. Whatever intention you have, the form serves either the ego or spirit. The ego made the form, so it's got first dibs. That's the relationship that brought it into manifestation. But the teaching and the declaration that the Holy Spirit can use everything and will use everything to transform and create love, to transform situations, to teach. It will use every form that there is, but it has to go through a surrender into the hands of the Holy Spirit. You have to actually have a conscious wanting because you are the decision maker. You choose love or the past. And every moment has that exquisite opportunity. When I was demonstrating sitting here, this is addiction. Let's see addiction for what it is. If I was sitting here, and maybe it wasn't the first time for sure, but if I was sitting here like this and my mind was making up a story about how impressed everybody was going to be and that I would be really seen as pretty nifty, that's addiction. And it's no different than any addiction of the ego. In that moment, I could tell you that there would be a need for me to convince. There would be a need, a, a pull. I needed a fix. I needed someone to admire me. I needed a fix. Everything the ego puts on to wear, go very, very slowly. If you're wearing something to impress, prove, you would think, well, what's the big deal? It's just clothes. It's addiction because it's coming from the mind that is holding the ego's addictions as needing to be fulfilled. Humility, devotion, another element of love, devotion. But again, I could look very devoted. But what is the mind wanting? What is the mind saying that it's for? Or is it the sweet place with the Holy Spirit that you are in connection and you're lost in that deep place, and it doesn't matter who walks in, you're not finished with your devotion. Humility is freedom. It truly is, because it's not attached to anyone or anything of getting. Its purpose is to serve love without making it personal. I wrote another word, discipline. Now, discipline is used obviously very diligently by the ego. Shoulds are totally connected to that. The discipline in the world is shoulds and criticisms and pushing goals, and but the discipline of love has no relationship to the discipline of the ego. The discipline of love says, this is all I want. The discipline of love says, oh, the ego is tempted to sit here and look very holy. No, I'm not. I'm not joining with that. I know that game. I don't want to join that game anymore. And that is the beautiful discipline of love that steers you back to peace again. Everything you see is the result of your thoughts. Everything that we see is what we're carrying in our minds. This is the best news you could get. If everything is in our minds, that's where the healing is. Then we don't have to try to convince anybody else. We can't convince anybody else to change themselves, to be different. We don't have to, because when we change our minds, we see them completely differently. Everything is in our minds. It is such a place of freedom because you then have the complete choice every day to change your mind, to come home, even if it's for a moment, but to change your mind, to only choose love. And with deep humility, have no expectations and be free of the need to get. Only love is true.